I think the most difficult part about it wasn't the fact that it was so successful. That was obviously lovely, but what came with that was the fact that my entire childhood at that point was documented. So it was from 12 to 19. It was so many firsts. I started at 12. I graduated high school. I moved out. I got engaged. I was planning my wedding all in that time, and I was battling a lot of health issues in between that. And so it's just one of those crazy times in your life where I had such a good experience, but at the same time, it was very intense for those 7 years.
Yeah.
And we were filming 24 episodes a season. So it really was a solid 9 months, 16, 17-hour days, splits all week. So you start really early and you end, you have your Fridays, you end really late at night. And it was all consuming. And thank God we had so many amazing people, like our crew. I mean, I can count on my hands the amount of people that actually changed in those 7 years. So, weddings, funerals, babies, we did it all together. And it's a unique experience. And I'm so thankful for it. But as far as what you were saying, Taylor, like it's really intense to learn to learn and grow and understand yourself when everybody else is hyperanalyzing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my character was so like specific and mean, which I loved. It was so fun. And that arc was really interesting and fun to do, but it is like it's contrast because it's that character is so specific that people want you to be and look and do things a certain way, especially since it was a book. Even though we deviated from it quite a bit, it was still, that idea of that character was very, very, I don't know, nuanced. So
yeah,
it was a lot.
Did you ever get to a point where you were like, I need a break? Like, I want to step back and I need to just take a break from it all?
No.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, like as far as mental health goes, I had some lows. But I think at the end of the day, I always put like the work first because that's what I enjoyed. I don't like all of the other bullshit that goes along with business. Sorry. I don't know.
You're all good.
That was always like the frustrating part. Like I don't like kissing butts. I don't like doing any of that. And so when I was working, I was my happiest, like being on set, being around crew, being around people, doing my job. That was my love. And so I never wanted to take a break from that.
Yeah.
And my closest friends weren't in the industry. And that was the biggest, like the best part of it. When I clocked in and I clocked out, when I went home, I was surrounded by people that were, people that I'd known for decades and that knew me outside of the industry. And that was my little bubble. And I don't think that I would be the same person today if that wasn't the case. If I had surrounded myself with more people in the industry, no offense to that community, but it breeds a different type of mentality. And I didn't want to get stuck in that. I didn't want to date an actor. I didn't want to, I didn't want to climb the ladder in that way either. Again, no disrespect for the people that do, and it's important. And I was actually just thinking about this the other day that like, it's interesting that choice. And I don't judge anybody for doing it. But it's this interesting split again, where because I didn't follow a lot of those paths, I did myself a disservice in my career in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because those relationships and those things, those people that you brush shoulders with take you to the next things.
Yeah.
And I had this whole mentality of professionalism and what my idea of that was. And it's interesting always that the loudest people get paid more attention to versus the people that are like actually doing their job and like, are efficient. So it's such a curious industry, and so many industries are like this that have similarities. And it's just kind of something that you got to navigate. But I was navigating it as a kid for a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, I really respect the way that you did handle it. And I think that is, I mean, you put your life, in front of and gave it more importance than getting the next job. And I think that's, why you turned out the way you do, and you have an incredible husband and a beautiful family. And it's just, I mean, with when you think about any job, you, it's no offense to the entertainment industry, but because any job, you go to work, you do your work, you come home, and your work doesn't bleed into your home life. It's just, those are two separate things. And I think where it can become dangerous is when you do, like, your work becomes your personal life too. And I certainly made that mistake multiple times, and I think it took its toll. But I think the way that you did it was very, very wise. And I mean, it shows today.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I just want to say, it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Like both routes are very hard to do. It takes a lot of, it's purposeful.
Yeah.
You got to like keep yourself in check, and it's just like, you're right. It is a weird thing that and I feel like this is the same thing for influencers now.
Mm-hmm.
Where I will be the first one to admit that when influencers started becoming, getting really famous, I was like, oh, it's like unfair. But really, the reality, I really respect influencers, because at the end of the day, that is their life. Their job doesn't shut off, just like ours does, right? Like, you're constantly planning, you're constantly prepping, you're constantly looking at analytics. You are your business, just like actors are, just like artists are in general. It's like and to treat that's where I feel like mental health comes into play too. It's like, to keep that up, to keep your mental health up, to keep your physical wellness up. Self-care is so important for both just your soul and your life. But also because you kind of got to treat yourself like a business.
Yeah.
Which is, again, most people don't have to do that. They clock in, they clock out, and that's that. And they go back to their families, or at least hopefully it doesn't bleed into their home life if it's a negative thing. But you are your business at the end of the day. And so, like, your livelihood is based on conditioning yourself, essentially.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way to think about it. It's so true.